Nothing to do with the foot fetish. It's a hilarious disclaimer, but I definitely
No, we're not talking Rex Ryan.
Hey, how about those Knicks? How about those Knicks?
Hey, how about those Knicks?
Hey, how about those Knicks, huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 2 of TKWeekly. Remember, catch us every Monday morning at 9 a.m. This week we have in store the consistency of the Knicks bench, our outlook over the first 2 games. We check in with your tweets in the community as we always do, so make sure to tap in the Knicks Wall community and get your tweets in there so you can mention on the show. And also, we made House of the Dragon comparisons between characters and our players. So we basically hit everything. So enjoy the show.
So it was a tale of 2 games for the Knicks second unit. We saw against Memphis in the season opener, Isaiah Hartenstein, Cam Reddish had tremendous games, really especially Cam in the second half. 22 points for Cam. Hart had 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, they both played very, very well in the opener. But then in the second game, a little bit quiet. Hartenstein was still good on the boards. We saw mostly, though, it was the Emmanuel Quickly show, having a really good bounce back game. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and near triple-double. Obi Toppin played really well. Derrick Rose played really well. Looked like himself again. Good to see after missing a lot of time last year. So with the inconsistency of some of these guys in the second unit over the first 2 games, are you dishing or swishing the consistency of the bench play the rest of the season?
I myself, I'll be swishing the consistency of the bench play. I was saying from the time, before the season started, when I first saw some preseason, that we have the potential to be a top 3 bench. Just, the guys that we have on the bench, the firepower. And sure, we're not going to get a near 20-point triple-double from Emmanuel Quickly every night. But Emmanuel Quickly is highly capable of a near 20-point triple-double in 27 minutes. Obi Toppin, he had an excellent game last night, and he didn't even really fully get into it. And he struggled with the jumper in the first half and still ended up playing well. Derrick Rose shot really consistently. Because of how much power we have on the bench, nobody's asked to do one thing too much on a consistent basis. And so if everybody just shows up even a little bit, we look really good. I mean, we really I think the first game, there was a lot of different struggles, things like that. We weren't really in a rhythm. But in that second game, at a point, we were up 41-6 on the Pistons bench. That completely changed the game. Our bench, that game was a blowout, and the starters played well, but the bench blew that game out in both halves. The bench separates us from a lot of teams, so I'm buying the bench for sure.
You got to, man. I just feel like, I don't know if it's the optimist in me, but with the way that our bench played last year, with the additions that we got on right now, with the way that Cam's playing, Hart back and Mitch up, I just feel like it's a matter of time before they kind of pull together. If you remember the beginning of last season, the struggles that the starting unit, faced, I feel like that's kind of similar to what the bench unit is kind of dealing with, right? Kind of, you got Quentin Grimes out, so who's the next leader if Rose isn't playing in the game? You saw that throughout the preseason a little bit, and it shows. But I feel like it's just a matter of time before they kind of all pull together. You got to be swishing on the bench. It's too early. You got to be optimistic.
I'm swishing on the bench. 100% easy, no-brainer for me, because whether or not Cam Reddish continues to play well, we'll see that, how he plays himself as a rotational piece, at least with Quentin Grimes being out for a little bit. I did really like what I saw the first game, but these other guys, I think I genuinely expect that level of consistency. Hartenstein, whether or not he's going to score, we know he's mostly there for the offense, right? But at least if he's working the board still, that's great from a second center, right? Especially getting 11, against the Pistons. So that's good to see. But then that trio last night that played well, Quickly had a big game, but again, he's not a stranger to bigger games. He's a sort of a volume guy, so when you give him more reps like that, I think it becomes a little bit easier for him to get into the flow of the game. Sean and I have always referred to him as sort of a rhythm player. You got to let him kind of get out there and play a little bit free before he can start to feel the game out. If you put him in cold a little bit and in a small spot, I don't think it really benefits him or benefits us. You got to let him just be himself. And I think last night was a good example of that. But he plays well with Derrick Rose. He plays well with Obi Toppin, and both of those guys played well. And that's more reminiscent of what we saw when they were all, Rose was healthy and they were still playing together. That was a lineup that sort of stabilized each other. So I really like what I saw. So this is an easy switch for me.
So Kyle, Sean, after these first 2 games, where are you at with these Knicks? You know, what are some of the takeaways that you have from these first 2 games? Positive, negative? You know, what's your outlook on this team moving forward?
For me, I'm really excited, and it's mainly because one, we looked really good last night. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's the Pistons." But it's funny because there were a lot of people who, when they wanted to be upset in the offseason, were saying the Pistons passed us with development. They were like, "Oh, they've got better young talent. They made better moves. Oh, blah, we got passed by the Pistons." And they come to the Garden, we beat them by 30. And now it's, oh, the Pistons are a high school team, blah, blah, blah. And it's whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we beat the team we're supposed to. And like, beating the team we're supposed to is going to be very important. And not only do we beat the team we're supposed to, we beat them badly, handedly, all game. And that's how you're supposed to win those games. So that's very refreshing to see. And then in the first game against Memphis,
Bullseye.
in the first game against Memphis, we were a couple of bounces of the ball away from winning the game on the road with RJ playing terribly. And, you know, a lot of the team, Jalen didn't really get going until the end of the game. But even Jalen almost won that game in Memphis. Like, every single possession.
Memphis last night played the Rockets. Ja had 49 points. You know, like, it's just what it is. So the fact that we played at that level with so much baggage, you know, and it's such sloppiness, I mean, it just speaks to our potential. You know, you got a team here that people are coining as, you know, an Eastern Conference, Western Conference finalist. Like, we're toe-to-toe with them, and we're playing sloppy as hell.
Yeah, no, my one big thing from the first 2 games. I'm a big stats guy, as everybody knows. Everybody knows this. Love stats, right? People love numbers, right? 15 assists, 0 turnovers. That's a good stat. That's a good number, right? I mean,
yo, hold on. I got to build on this right here because I just saw something, right? The Knicks right now are leading the NBA. I understand it's game 2, but in assist to turnover ratio right now, we're leading the league. Last year, we finished 25th.
That's what you want to see, man. We're watching good basketball. Like in my notes yesterday, all that I said was like, you know, there's nothing to be upset about. This is like quality. They're moving the ball, right? They were playing unselfish. I thought Julius played unselfish, right? But RJ was really dishing yesterday, especially in the first half, to really get them going, really swinging the ball. A couple of real, you know, dimes, which for him, we want to see more of that this year, right? We know he can start to score a little bit, but we want to see some of that too, and we did. But for me, Jalen Brunson's the one big thing, man, because, I mean, wow.
Speak on it, please.
This is what they paid for, you know. I think it's a steady hand. It's a level of consistency. We knew it wasn't a flashy signing per se, but we knew it was going to be something where it was a big upgrade at the position, but it was somebody who also gives us what we needed in the sense of creating abilities, right? But still being unselfish. Oh, he's good on the boards too. He's not even a big guard, and he's good on the boards. I think it's just, you know, it's just nice. It's just really nice to have a steady presence. We had the Alfred Paytons, we had the Alec Burks, we had, you know, just
go back.
It's a long list. It's a long list every year. You know, it's like the Browns jersey with all the names, one after another, quarterbacks. It just never ends. And it's just, you know, Kemba Walker and everybody.
Or the Bears kickers.
These experiments just didn't work, you know. And then now, at least for 4 years, right? We just got this guy, and he's just going to be consistent if nothing else. So it's nice to see.
Last night, I think, as well as we played, the thing for me is, like, everybody was good, but nobody was great. Like, nobody did, outside maybe Quick with 20.7 rebounds, 7 assists in 27 minutes. But, like, nobody had, like, some, you know, out of this world game. It was just everybody showed up and did their job, and they didn't even really have to finish. Like,
very balanced. You know what I mean? You look at the stat sheet, and the ball was shared. You know what I mean? You could just very even keeled, and that's what you need to see. You know, we were talking about it a little bit last night, where it's not going to happen every night where you're getting 20, you know, those types of lines from 3 people, but you're going to see it often, and every single one of these guys is capable of doing it. So that's, you know, to the point we were talking on the segment earlier about the bench, you know, and why you got to switch. We got guys who could easily hit 20 points a night on any given night. You know, that was my big thing about JB, you know, exactly like you were just saying, Sean, in, you know, game 1 against Memphis. By halftime, he had 5 points. But in the second half, he found other ways to impact the game of play. He started picking up his defense, right? You started seeing him throw his body in the lane and, try to pick up, charges there. Obviously, a lot of calls that, were kind of iffy, but he did get a couple. And the big one at the end of the game, where it was a charge, where otherwise Memphis would have won by 2 in regulation. So definitely a big piece, man. I feel like JB is going to unlock so many different pieces. A big reason why I think the Knicks are going to be underrated this year, 100%.
Just every Monday morning at 9 a.m. This week we talked about
Did I throw you off with the fucking...
You did a little bit, but I was like, what is the order I'm going to go in? And I started going through the order semantically in my head and no words came up.
We did this swish on what, Cam?
This week we talked about the consistency of the Knicks bench.
Yeah, swish.
The second quarter was wash.
I love it. It's too funny. We just spent an hour and a half. And I think it was just a general discussion on outlook.
On the first 2 games. Okay.
But a lot of Jalen Brunson was in the second part.
Yes. So
then we went to House of Dragon.
Consistency of the bench. But I think House of Dragon was fourth quarter though.
Oh yeah, House of Dragon was fourth.
Yeah, so we did consistency of the bench. Our outlooks on the first 2 games. So we checked in your tweets in the community. Make sure you add those in there. And we made House of the Dragon comparison. So, all right, boom. All right, so
I'm not going to do it right here. I'll
No, there was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing. I was going to do that regardless of whether you did it or not. But, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so continuing with the trend with TKW Weekly here, every episode we're always going to take some tweets from the Knicks Flow community. There's a lot of you guys in there, a lot of good takes, a lot of good questions and tweets. So we'll always pluck a couple to use on the show. So going to start with the first one today. It's at JJ_Woody_ again, John Jr. here. It says, if form continues as such, thoughts on Evan and IQ to the Lakers for whatever draft assets they got left in the tank?
I am not trading Emmanuel quickly.
I knew that's your answer.
Yeah, I'm not trading Emmanuel quickly.
I was with this tweet until Evan, right? And then when it gets to and IQ, it's like you lost me.
I would move Fournier. I mean, to nobody's surprise, I would move Fournier in any sort of a salary dump, whether we got something or not. This has been my stance since basically the ink was dry on the first deal. But I'm never anti-trade because everybody's got a price, no matter who I like, who don't like, right? So for me, it's always been like, yeah, I don't want to trade quickly, but like over the summer, we're talking about Donovan Mitchell or something. I was like, yeah, I mean, if we're going to get an upgrade, right? Like, I understand where the line is, where you got to, let certain players go sometimes. So in a situation where there's a clear big upgrade, I'm pro using one of our better young players in a package like that, right? Okay, I understand that's the cost. You want to keep Mitch or RJ, whoever you're going to want to keep, right? You got to keep someone, you got to get rid of someone. But for draft picks, when we have so many right now, is not cutting it for me. I don't need more draft picks just to, get rid of Fournier and quickly. To me, that's very lateral, because then we've sort of punted on picks before to kind of keep adding or rolling. It's like, I'm not sure that turning one of our currently good young players and then hoping it turns into another maybe good young player down the road is really smart. He plays well with the team. It just seems very silly to me. Absolutely not doing that trade. Fournier and some other stuff, maybe we could figure out. Quickly is not going to go in a package like that for me.
So this next tweet that we got up here is from Brown Boy at Insta 2 H's with an underscore. And he says, man,
oh my God.
Yeah, that's what's up. He says, man, it's going to be really hard for Grimes to slide into this rotation since he's been injured. And I just completely disagree. For me, that's Grimes' spot, right? Maybe it's not said so outwardly, but internally, that's Grimes' spot. So Cam is going to have to work extra hard to take that spot. And yes, he had a great game versus Memphis, but he had the opportunity to follow it up the next game, last night against the Pistons, or 2 nights ago rather. And he didn't really do much. What do you think, Sean?
So I agree with half what you're saying, but not for the reason you're saying it. So I agree that that's Grimes' spot. It's not going to be something that he's going to lose. I think he's going to be the starter ultimately. But my angle on it is sort of, I'm hoping that Cam can continue to play and show what he did in that first game. And, you know, I don't know how long Grimes is out. I'm a little nervous about that, actually, because we're not really getting all that information. It's been kind of weird.
All right, guys. Yeah, you definitely have my permission to worry about Quentin Grimes now. All right, based on everything I've seen, plantar fasciitis makes the most sense to me. Now, the Knicks haven't come out and outright said it's plantar fasciitis, but if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. All right, so the plantar fascia is that thick fibrous band on the bottom of the foot that connects the heel to the toes. All right, now when you try to play professional basketball on that, forget about it. The pain is just too much. It's just, you can't do it. All right, now can it heal on its own? Absolutely, it can heal on its own, but it will take months and months and months for it to do so. I knew someone personally that it took almost a year of them actually working on it for it to get better. That's an extreme case. I don't think that'll be the case with Grimes personally, but it could be. If you do try to get surgery on it, you could probably be back within 12 weeks, in my estimation, if you go undergo, physical therapy and things like that in the correct way. Cortisone shots he could do, thick sole shoes, things like that are routes that he could take to try to get a little bit of a quicker pace on his return. But if he does return and then plays on it, and then we see him miss a couple more games, that's not going to be good at all. That's actually going to set him back and probably cause him a significant time down the stretch. So again, this is immensely sensitive and we have to take it seriously. I hope that he gets back soon. Surprised it didn't fall. Thanks, guys.
As many of you may know, last night was the finale of House of the Dragon. And it got us thinking, if the Knicks were on Westeros, who would be what character? Why?
I got a good one, I think.
All right.
So I had Laenor was Evan Fournier. I said they both had big roles, they kept, the king's consort, right? Stepped in, big role, big responsibility, but no real impact to show for it. Because ultimately, for his services through the first 8-9 episodes, we know what has happened to him since. So not a great situation to be in, but we know that he's still out there somewhere, just simply existing at that point in the show. And that's how I feel about Evan Fournier. So that's my match, my big one.
I like it. I like
that one a lot.
Hell yeah, man. Me too. So as you're saying that, right, I'm thinking a little bit and I'm trying to, bring something new, because we've had this discussion a little bit. So, but I just popped in my head. I feel like maybe RJ is kind of like Eamon. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of probably the next best to be the king, but his older brother is the one who just got shoved into the limelight. It's kind of like that RJ Julius narrative, you know what I mean? And RJ's putting in all that work. He's done all the training, he's got the smarts, and it's like, I just feel like it's a good little, relation there. And then the other one I was thinking of, this is a little offbeat, but Larry Strong, right? The guy with the foot fetish from last episode. And this isn't why I'm saying it, but he just reminds me of Mark Berman. You know what I'm saying? The way that Berman's always out there, gossiping a little bit, putting little drops here and there in his pieces and getting people to think. That's Larry Strong, is it not? Right? Always whispering in people's ears and, kind of like scheming a little bit. I made the connection. I'll leave it at that. Nothing to do with the foot fetish. That's where I'm going.
Nothing to do with the foot fetish is a hilarious disclaimer, but I definitely
we're not talking Rex Ryan.
This is the New York show, you could tell.
But I've got Damon being Julius Randle. I just think with the way he starts off, and he's kind of like an anti-guy. We're not really fond of him, and then he becomes a character who's kind of like on the side that you find yourself rooting for. And so I definitely see Damon there. If the Knicks are Raniero, right? And we're all rooting for Raniero, I'm assuming, most of us.
Correct.
Exactly. So if you're rooting for Raniero, Damon may have at first wanted the throne and have opposed Raniero, and you may have felt like you had to root against him. But as time's gone along in this season, his role has completely changed. And he's on her side, and they're a team now. So for Raniero to succeed, Damon must also succeed. And I feel like that's exactly what the case is, which is Julius Randle.
Now, a couple minutes before we got into this segment, you made a great comparison for King Viserys. So I definitely want you to throw that out there because I feel like we could build on that even more, you know?
So I've definitely got Tibbs as King Viserys. You know, and that's not a Tibbs slander thing, even though King Viserys does deserve some slander. We went up and down with Tibbs. We went up and down with his decision making. He was kind of stuck in his ways. You know, we may have wanted to play the young kids last year. We may have wanted to see Emmanuel quickly at point guard, but he refused to remove his heir, Alec Burks. And so, you know, those are decisions he stood on. And
this is not a spoiler, by the way. This is not a spoiler.
Yeah,
if you're drawing straws.